Hello, welcome to episode 6 of our Vespa project. Today we're going to put a few more things back together and talk about what's next. We had it running last time, amazingly, and we're just going to put the air cleaner back together. We got that cleaned out, so we'll stick that on. And tighten that down. That's good. That's good. Okay. There's an outer cover that goes over the whole works. The gasket is all in place. In the meantime, we put a new fuel line in here. So we're ready to hook to the fuel tank. We'll put this outer cover on. And you notice there's a hole that the idle adjustment sticks up through. So if you need to adjust the idle, you can take the bigger outer cover off and just do that by hand or with a screwdriver. Maybe a couple screws that hold that in place. So we can get them started. Okay. So that one. And that one. That's all good. Now we need a new air intake tube. That's ordered, but we haven't got it yet. And also, which I didn't realize, there's a plastic cowling that was missing that goes over this the jug. This fan that allows it to be a forced cooling because the engine's so enclosed that forces the air through all these fins. So we've got one of those coming too. But for the meantime, we'll stick this outer cover back on so we don't lose track of it. It's a pretty neat system. This pin goes in there. Goes in there. Comes down to a hole here. And this little keeper pulls out and twist. And as you can see, if we go full route, we've got a lot of body work and stuff to do. But first we want to get it running, ride it around, decide if we like it and want to keep it. So let's go take a look at that fuel tank. If you remember last time, someone had done a repair by brazing a washer on there with this piece of copper, and we wanted to go back to the original fuel valve with a sediment bowl and a screen and everything. So we very carefully ground that until that came off and the tank underneath was undamaged. So we sanded that down and gave it a little primer. Get the inside of the tank cleaned up. And now we're going to attempt to put this in. This needs to face toward the front because that's where the fuel valve lever comes in. So we're going to put that in there like that with the rubber washer on the bottom. And now there's a nut that goes over that and tightens that down. And if we're lucky, I can start it on there without dropping it. Juggling that. Yeah, let me grab a light, make sure I've got that in place. Okay, I do. Now it takes a special wrench to tighten that nut down. And I borrowed one that my father had made. They sell them, but he made this years ago to work on his Vespas by bending an old 1.25" wrench and cutting a slot in it to go around the pipe. You can get that in there. And this is quite a trick, and take a little bit of fooling around to get feel for it. That engages the nut. That's going to take some fooling around. Swear and carry on, mess with that. But basically we'll tighten that in there, get that so it holds, so it's facing in the right direction and snugs up that washer. Then we're going to take and set it in here and put some fuel in it and let it set for an hour or so to make sure that it doesn't leak before we put it back on the machine. As far as running the machine, we've run into a little bit of a problem. We found out everything was free. We were able to get it started. The only thing we couldn't do was shift it. And if you're familiar with Vespas, they have this funky shift where you squeeze the clutch lever and twist the left grip, but nothing's happening back there. So let's take a look inside the headlight shell. You can see there's two cables that hook on that actually do the shifting. I think you can see that. And one of them has come out and it's all frayed. One cable pulls it into the lower gears, and when they're both hooked up, the other one's supposed to shift it up into the higher gears as you twist that twist grip. Okay. So we've got both of those on order. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic and politics, as you know, there's supply chain problems and a lot of things are taking a lot longer than they used to get in stock. So I think that's going to sideline this project for a little while. We're excited to get it running. We've got the fuel tank fixed. We're going to get that back in. It'll be all ready to ride, take a little ride on as soon as we can get these cables. So what we're going to do in the meantime, we'll work on a different project, and when parts are available, we'll come back to this, because I think this is going to be a keeper. We're going to want to go further with it. So for next time, we've got 1985 Harley Davidson FXRT Sport Glide. It's got 80,000 hard miles on it. Great running bike. But a year ago, when it's hot, it started to develop a bottom end knock. So rather than see the motor demolish itself, we decided maybe it's time to take it down and put some bearings in it. So we got the motor out of the bike, got it on the bench. The cylinders, I want to show you, are amazing for 80,000 miles. This is a Harley's Evolution motor, and there's almost no ridge on top. A little bit of carbon, but almost no ridge. We're making some torque plates now so that we can compress the cylinders and measure them and see if these actually do need to be bored or honed. But so far the top end actually looks pretty good. We did find this front rod seems to be very loose in the bearing. I don't know if you can hear that, but that could be the source of our bottom end knock, which at 80 to 100,000 miles would not be, unusual for an Evolution motor to need lower rod bearings. So this is a learning experience for me. I've never had one of these apart before. Next time we'll take off the oil pump, take off the timing chest, get the cam out of there, and begin to start getting these crankcases apart so that we can try to install some lower rod bearings. And anybody out there has got any advice, I'd I would gladly listen to it. Like I said, this would be a first time for me on this motor. But that's what we have. Our Vespa is coming along. We think we're going to have a lot of fun riding it if we can get those shifter cables so that we can get it in gear and see how it goes. And in the meantime, we're going to start on this project. So if you'd like to keep following along with us and working on these old bikes, give us a thumbs up, share these episodes with your friends, consider subscribing. If you have any questions, comments, complaints, we'd love to hear them, and advice, because obviously I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I'm just a hobbyist that really enjoys it, and I can always learn. There's a lot of knowledge out there, so if you've got some insight as to any of these projects we're working on, feel free to put that in the comments section. So hope to see you again. Until next time, take care, God bless, and happy trails.